Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, and we are looking at another Eastern Conference matchup here. We got the Bucks taking on the Celtics tonight. That is what we're looking at in this video. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to the page, as we've got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props video we love to bring you each and every weekday. Nate's got his article up on playpicks.com as well, with some best bets and player props in there for you. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for Monday night tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Celtics are using a huge rest advantage tonight. They've been off all weekend since getting stomped in Phoenix at the end of that West Coast road trip. And they don't play again until Friday, whereas the Bucks played yesterday afternoon. They beat the Knicks. So I guess that's why we're seeing a pick'em line right now, or +1 for the Celtics in some spots. The total has risen from 219 to 221 at that game. Not surprising considering the last 5 meetings between these teams have gone over. And just quickly looking at the other games on Monday's slate here, we got Heat +5 at Cavs, Kings +4.5 at Raptors, Warriors -3 at the Pacers. The Rockets are +10 at the Hawks. Memphis is +3 at home against the Sixers. The Hornets are +2 at the Luka-less Mavericks. Wizards +4.5 at Nuggets. And then the other game we break down today, Suns -3.5 at the Clippers. So you're getting some value here with the Bucks, to be sure. They've won 11 of their last 12 when Giannis plays, the exception being a loss to Miami, which just, finds a way against these Bucks, finds a way to limit Giannis. The Celtics do not necessarily limit Giannis. It's a bit of a misnomer to look at the fact that Boston has won 3 of their last 4 and covered in 4 straight against Milwaukee. Because, Giannis didn't play in that last one. Neither did Chris Middleton. There were outliers all over the place, including Drew Holiday going 6 for 25 from the field in an expanded role. And Dennis Schroeder going 16 for 27 on Drew Holiday as he worked his way back from an ankle injury. 38 points for Schroeder. The Celtics won despite shooting under 30% from 3. They dropped 122 points in that game. I don't think we're going to see a recurrence of that. This is a team that shoots below average from 3 at home or on the road. This is a team that scores the second highest percentage off free throws in the NBA. And the Bucks, their defense, they allow the 5th fewest free throws. They allow the 3rd fewest points in the paint. They hold opponents to the 4th lowest field goal percentage. Where do they struggle? They struggle in giving up threes, or they choose to let certain guys shoot threes. See Marcus Smart playing through the flu tonight, probably going to get ahead of his skis and take a few more threes than he wants to. You also have Jaylen Brown coming back from a multi-game absence, and we don't know if he's going to be rusty. We don't know how that fit necessarily works. We know that Jason Tatum does way better on offense when Jaylen is not in there, and that the team, as a result, the Celtics team scoring drops from 110 to 105. Their defensive rating also drops because Jaylen Brown is an excellent defender. So the total for me is really hard to predict the way the Celtics have been playing lately. I trust the Bucks to score, but I think I'm going to stay away from the total because the Celtics have there's just such a stark difference based on where they are. The last 5 home games, they're 4-1 with the 4th best defensive rating, but then they went on the road. They suddenly dropped to 28th in defensive rating. The rebounding rate went from 3rd to 25th, and their pace ramped up to 3rd. It's so crazy night to night what they get, what they come out with in terms of their scheme. I will trust the continuity of the Milwaukee Bucks and the fact that they've lost 3 of their last 4 against this team, and Giannis is going to play on a back-to-back, and Giannis is going to want to come out and say, you know what, we still can beat Boston. They don't have our number or anything. And I think he'll lead the Bucks to a win.
Yeah, Giannis against the Celtics, and he didn't play in that game earlier in the season, and obviously that was pretty much everything for them. Even in that game, though, that they played, you could still see how the Bucks, even without Giannis, were able to sort of contain the Celtics offense, which is pretty unimaginative and uncreative. And that's really why, once again, I think I'm really liking the stats that we have here for the Bucks back-to-backs. I think that's sort of the driving factor of the angles that I'm looking at for this game. I think that's a lot of what you were saying as well. The under, the pace slows with them on the second leg of that back-to-back. They're still very good on the second leg of a back-to-back, specifically, especially compared to other teams, in the last 3 years that they've been at the top of the Eastern Conference. Loving that the under is 24-15 since 2019 for the Bucks on that second leg of those back-to-backs. So I think this is going to be one of those, we're going to see Milwaukee's defense show up as it has been, since they've gotten their big three back. And that's been the sort of catalyst for what they've been doing. We know that when they have the big three, they average more than 115 points a game. But we also know that since, they've gotten those big three back in the lineup, their defensive rating has skyrocketed back up to in the top three. Whereas, before that, it was way down there. And they're not defending the 3-pointer as well as, they have in the past with Mike Budenholzer, teams that have been known to shoot a lot of threes and defend the three really well. But like you said, that seems to be because of, them giving up bad shots, and they're fine with, certain players on the other team taking the shots that they want. And this is in the Celtics, you mentioned, this is a team ripe for taking bad shots tonight. When when Jason Tatum gets bottled up, it turns into, well, okay, now just move and try to find the open guy. But the defense is always ahead of them rather than them being ahead of the defense. And that, the sort of bipolar nature of their offense and really what happened on the road in their recent road trip. It's hard to predict what they're going to do with points. When a team is able to beat the 76ers by one, scoring 88 points, and then the very next night get blown out 137-130 against the Jazz, it's very confusing. And it makes you wonder, how are they, randomly scoring? And it really just seems to be what Jason Tatum does. And if he doesn't have it, then the offense doesn't have it. And that's what I would bank on a little bit more tonight. I would look at that team total for the Celtics going under. Playing at home, it doesn't really seem to mean that they score more points. If anything, they're a little bit better on defense, right? And just as bad or much worse on offense. So I think that's, even though it's somewhat unpredictable in terms of what the Celtics are going to do, I think that the Bucks are going to come out tonight, like I said, with that defensive prowess in mind, and play really well on the second leg of back-to-back and on the road, where they're really good on defense as well.
Yeah, in the last game, I mentioned the Celtics shot poorly from the perimeter, but they got 16 of 18 free throws. Bucks didn't shoot many free throws at all with Giannis out, but that's something you can really rely on. It's not whether his jumper's falling. Giannis is going to get to the line. He's going to get to the paint. And the Bucks score such a high percentage of unassisted field goals because of that. So the fact that the Celtics are fourth in assist to turnover ratio allowed is kind of irrelevant in this matchup. The fact that they give up the sixth most free throws per game is very relevant. So, that's what I'm banking on, kind of the old school prowess of a guy like Giannis to just get down there and impose his will. And if he has this game kind of circled on his calendar to say, we got to get these Celtics, then that's why I think Milwaukee will be able to come out. And you just look at the numbers across the board for the Bucks while winning 12 of their last 14. They're second in net rating, second in pace, third in defensive rating, number one rebounding team. And the Celtics in that same span are just about average in every category because, like the Pacers you like to make fun of, they oscillate between just awful and good in certain categories, and they can't seem to put it all together. They have gotten up for these games, and including beating the Bucks, but they were shorthanded at that point again. So I don't think that they beat the Bucks at full strength tonight.
Yeah, and knowing the Bucks' propensity to beat teams that are in the bottom half, especially of their Eastern Conference, where they just mop up. This is a team right now in the Celtics that you've got to consider. In the bottom half of the Eastern Conference specifically, and that's where the Bucks sort of pounce on teams that they smell weakness, and that's where we're at with the East tonight. So yeah, I'm picking Giannis, I'm picking the Bucks, and I'm picking probably few points for the Celtics. Although I'm not ready to take the under on the total, because if the Bucks get up to about 115, which I fully expect them to be able to do, then we're talking about needing the C's to score less than 105, and that's why I would feel good about their under team total first over that game total. But that is all the time we have on this one. Make sure you like and subscribe to that page. Got a couple other videos up for you today. And until we see you next, happy betting.